And we will be able to form this particular complete query in Gosu. So I'll open Gosu Scratchpad to show you how our query object and results objects look like. So you go to Gosu Scratchpad. So this is a main method. It works like a main method wherein you can, if you are doing some development right, you can execute your code here and the console, the values, get printed. So if you want to do real-time changes right, you can test your changes. You can test your code from the Gosu Scratchpad. Okay. So let's suppose say, okay, my server is not yet started, I'll start my server. So we have system out print right in the Java. Similarly, we have this print. We just use print and then, under brackets, we'll pass the string so that it prints that string in the console. So it will act like a main method and we can test our code, so similar like I'll. Let me give you an example, print. In string. Hello world. Okay. So when I run this, I will run it in that once my server is upright. So this button will be enabled. Run and debug process. So I'll click on this run and debug process. Then my console will be apparent that down. We need the screen and I'll be sure I'll be able to see this statement. Whatever we give you, it will be presented in the console. So, similarly, if you want to show the detail of a big contact entity, the rows of a big contact or a big person entity, right? We have so many persons include in our database, right? So I want to query the AB person entity. So how I will query it? First, I will create an query object, right? So I'll name it as query obj. This is a syntax to create. There is a package at gw.api.database. .query. Okay, so there is a class named query, which will contain a method, and it's a static class. That's why we are not creating any object of it. We are directly calling it. Okay, so inside the query class we have this make method in which we have to pass on the entity name which we are going to query. AB person. Okay, so my query object is done. Okay, I've given the. Okay, I'll also mention, for reference here, the corresponding SQL. Okay. Select star. From. AB person. Okay, this is my corresponding SQL and I'm writing. The corresponding goes to query for this particular. Okay. Now I need to run or write the result object, so I'll have the query object, I'll do query object dot select. Okay, there is a select method on this. So I'll call this OK. So my result object is also ready. Okay, now the my. This AB person would contain multiple rows, right? So if I want to iterate on this, but so this result object would also contain multiple rows of data, right? So what I will do? I'll create a for loop. Okay. To iterate in the result object, so it will result in result object. So result object is A. It will contain the array of the AB person objects, right? So I'm iterating through each result and I'm printing the result. Just to show in the console. So if I add the print statement, right, it will be appearing the console. And I can. If I suppose I want to print each and every field, then I have to just give with star dot. Sorry, not star. So which field do you want me to print? I'll see in the result. Object, cell phone data, but first name. I'll print first name. Huh. First name. Okay. So first name would be printed once I run this. My server is started or not? Yeah, debug is enabled. Yeah, it is still starting. Okay. So this is the query, once it is. My server is not fully started yet, but debug is enabled. But let it start fully, then only we'll debug it. Okay. So now let's take an example of one more query. Select. Sorry, we are just wearing first name here, right? So that first. Here also we'll select. Select last name. From AB. Person. Where. Where we here, we are adding the clause also. First name equal to something. Lynn. Okay, so we have to write this query. So we'll have the same steps. We'll write a query object. Let me copy it. Okay. So, as I said, write in our OK. I have defined it in the same name. I'll some different. Okay, I'll define it with some different name here. Okay, so you can see. I have told you right where, if you want to add a constraints. So we have to add the constraints in the query object, not in the result object. Right. So after we pick up the entity, okay. After we have given the entity details from where the query has to be fetched, the results. We will put the constraints, like with the dot. We'll see what are the constraints available. So we have to compare right with the first name. So I'll put compare. Okay, and in the first parameter I need to give the field name which I need to compare, like AB person. What is the field name? I will compare it with first name, right? First name. What should be the constraint? It should be equal to right. So there is a package name relop where, which will contain all the comparative operators. Okay, so let me check what equals. I have equals here in this reload package. Okay, so I have in the second parameter. I have given equals in the third parameter. I'll give the string. So you can just see this, how we have written the compare statement here and how we are writing the compare statement here. Okay. Now this part is done. We have to take care of this part right.